Hi, everybody. It's me, Keisha, and I am so glad you joined me today. Today, we're going to jump into a brand new topic. We're going to talk about what to do when your husband is holding out intimacy in the bedroom. What do you do? Because we're always talking about the wives, and I've already done a video talking to you specifically, wives, about holding out in the bedroom and what your responsibility and your role is, right? But what do we do when it's the husbands who are holding out? That's a little different. That's a very sensitive topic to delve into, but I'm willing to do it. So let's get started, okay? So, the first thing that you're going to do when this situation pops up, the first thing that you're going to do is pray, right? You know it's going to say it. You got to pray, right? Because the tendency is to become passive aggressive, is to become aggressive, not just passive aggressive, but potentially aggressive, angry, right? Feeling rejected. All those emotions are going and flying high right now, or could potentially be. And so it's really going to be important for you to pray for yourself, that your flesh and your emotions are not allowed to run rampant, right? And you're going to pray for your husband, right? There are things going on with him. You don't know what they are, right? But it's going to be very imperative that you, as a wife, as his helpmeet, right, the one the Lord sent for him to help him, you're going to pray for him and pray that the Lord would have his way, that the Lord will give you wisdom, right? The Lord will help you to control your physical impulses and your emotions and all those things that are racing around your brain potentially while this is going on. So all of these things require prayer, right? And us bringing them before the Lord. And so I just encourage you to make sure that you are spending time in the presence of God in prayer, right? So that He can help be your help and assistance to get you through this very tough time. Okay? So you're going to pray for yourself. You're going to pray for your husband. You're going to pray for your marriage, right? This is something that's affecting the marriage, right? And the marriage is very, very important in the eyes of the Lord, right? You're in covenant with this man before the Lord, right? And so you're going to lift your marriage up in prayer. The second thing I want you to do is assess your role as wife, right? Evaluate. Evaluate what you're doing, how you're saying things to him. Are you nagging? Are you being hard to please? Are you not submitting? Are you not being proper help? Right? Are you helping him properly? Are you getting meals done? Is the laundry done? Do they have clean underwear and socks? Right? Are the kids getting in bed properly? Are they going to bed at a decent hour? Right? Children shouldn't be roaming the house 9, 10, 11, 12, midnight. Right? They should be in bed, and you all should be able to look forward to time, quiet time in a home. That's important, right? Prioritizing your marriage, right? And so assessing your role as wife, making sure that you are in doing things in your role to glorify the Lord and to be pleasing to your husband. So assess your role, right? If you have kind of let things fall by the wayside, now is a great time to do some house cleaning in your role and get yourself together. A lot of clutter around, clean it up. Things fall by the wayside, get them back in where they need to be, right? It's no time like the present to do that. So assess your role. If you found yourself kind of not submitting, giving him a hard time, he asks you to do something, he's arguing with you, and you guys are bickering back and forward, now is the time to submit to him, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. You're called to be under his mission, to help him, not to be, making it hard on him to be the husband and the head, right? Challenging him at every turn, right? Nagging him at every turn, fussing about this, complaining about that, right? That is not sexy. Right? So I don't know if that is the issue, but if it is, you need to be tightening up in that area and getting your role back, getting yourself back into the swing of what your role is calling for, that which glorifies God and is pleasing to your husband. Okay, that's the next thing you need to do. Let's follow up. If you have offended him, let's say you've done something wrong. Ladies, we do it all the time, right? He asks you not to spend out of a certain account. Happens all the time. I hear it all the time, right? I want you to spend out of this account, honey. This card is only for emergencies, right? And we go in and we find something that we really like and we check it and there's enough money in there and we go out and take $350 out to buy something or make a purchase, right? With intention to pay it back or put it back or, whatever it is, right? The bottom line is he asked you not to do it and you did it anyway. That causes stress, right? That causes offense. If you've done something like that, if you've offended your husband, you need to go to him, tell him what you did, ask him to forgive you, right? And stop the behavior, right? Fall in line. If he needs you not to spend out a certain account, the money might just be sitting there. You're like, it's just sitting there. It's not, he's not using it, and I can use it for this, and I have things in the house. If there are things that you need to talk to him about the things you need. But you don't go and take out of an account or go and do something he asked you not to do, right? Honey, I want the children in bed at this particular time. And for 2-3 weeks now, the children have been in bed hours later, right? Climbing the walls at 10:30 at night, right? They're things that we need to just pay attention to. When he's saying them, no matter if he's calm and he's saying them or if he's excited and he's saying them, they're still important. You still need to implement them. Get it done, okay? So if you've fallen and done this, you've done something to offend him, apologize, repent for that, and fix the situation, right? Chances are, your husband loves you. He's like, okay, babe, I understand. Thank you so much. They're usually very appreciative to you, repenting and putting things in order. And they really love to see the change that goes by, and they love the vulnerability of us admitting that we're wrong. Because, we like to try to walk around like we're not wrong. And, let's admit it, we are wrong a lot of times, right? So, not all the time, but a lot of times, okay? Um, we might want to also consider as wives when this is going on in our marriages and they're holding out external pressures. Sometimes our husbands are walking around with the weight of the world, right? There's the mortgage, there's the rent, there's the car note, right? There is the pricey car repair that needs to be done. There's the big project coming up at work that is weighing on him, and he's the team lead on it, and he has all these people that are pulling from him in every direction. And sometimes when those external stressors are there, they kind of fold in and are not open intimately. That can happen, right? And so we just need to be considerate of that. When we have that on our radars and we know that's going on, we need to be praying about that, praying that the Lord will strengthen them and give them help and bring them peace, and give them confidence in those situations, right? Because that's what they need right now, right? They don't need us nagging about what we're not getting. They just need to know that there's a loving wife, who respects them to fall back on, right? While the world's, pulling at them, grabbing at them, and biting at their heels, right? And so we don't want to add to that. That becomes one more external thing that's nipping at him, right? And so we don't want at that particular time to be one more thing. Right? We want to be a place of refuge. We want our husbands to come and refuge in us and to find serenity and peace in their marriages to us, right? And so we want to cultivate that, right? The next thing we want to do is we want to consider his health, right? Sometimes men have things going on physically with them, and it's hard for them to talk about, right? It's all over the television, it's all over the internet, all over the radio, ED this and blue pill that, and it's on and on and on, right? Sometimes husbands are experiencing things physically that they're embarrassed about. and it's never happened to them before, whether they're younger husbands or older husbands. The potential is there for something to malfunction, right? And so what do we do with that? We have it on our radar, right? And we don't go, hey, let's talk about this, hon. No, don't do that, right? Just refrain from trying to, get him to open up about the situation. Chances are he might come around and talk to you about it when it's time, when he's gained enough confidence and maybe insight and education about what's going on himself, right? So he just needs some time. It's kind of embarrassing. It's a touchy subject. He was used to always performing in a marriage, and then something happens and he's as shocked as anybody that this is going on, right? And so we want to just be very, very mindful of that, very sensitive to them. They can be easily hurt in these periods of time. They don't like to show it because they're very strong, and we don't look at our husbands as being hurt or embarrassed, right? Those are things that we usually associate with our own natures, right? But our husbands do have a side that can be embarrassed and ashamed of something going on, right? And they don't have to be, right? But you just once again want to continue to be a place of refuge for them, right? Being very, very patient and giving them lots of time to work through the thought process of what's going on with them and get up enough courage to investigate further, either by going to a doctor or speaking to someone, right? And so in the meantime, what are we doing? Praying, right? We're still cultivating a home where it's serenity, a place of refuge in a household. We're still honoring him. We're still respecting him. We're still loving on him, right? We're making sure we're doing all that's in our power to do. Are we going to do that perfect, ladies? Of course we're not going to do it perfect, right? There was only one perfect man, Jesus. We're not it, right? But we can try our best, right, to do a good job at our roles as wives, right, there while they're going through this very difficult time and trying to explore what it is that's causing what's going on in their bodies, right? It can be very confusing for them as well, right? And so we're just continually lifting them up and praying that the Lord will give them wisdom and give them insight, right? And let them know what it is they need to do as next steps, right? So let's keep that in mind, the physical thing that might be going on with them as well. Okay. Sometimes, we get to the point where we have that we know that we have on our radar something going on. We know that he has a lot going on at work. He's been talking about this project, or he's been talking about this merger, or he's been talking about, having to go out to a site and do whatever, or our client's home for something. He's been talking about something going on at the restaurant, and we have it on our radar that he's under a lot of pressure and he's wired really, really tight, right? Every little thing is kind of, having him respond with excitement, right? We can kind of tell when our husbands are wound tight, right? And so we're aware of some things we don't know. Or perhaps the last time you were together, something didn't happen properly, right? And so that was like, okay, that was the last time. And it's been a week or two and nothing's happening, or even longer. And you're like, okay, that was key, right? Because something happened and it didn't happen like it was supposed to happen or like it usually happens. And so I know that that's an area that I should be paying attention to, right? So what do we do, right, after we have committed it to the Lord? We've been praying. We've been taking a look and assessing our roles to make sure we're being the wives that we've been called to be, glorifying to the Lord, pleasing to our husband, right? We've put our household in order. The children are going to bed on time. Dinner is cooked and ready, so he's not eating at 11:30 at night. You're working on just having a good schedule for the home. you have offended him and you've repented, or maybe you haven't, but you have checked yourself to see that you are doing what you're supposed to do and haven't done anything he hasn't asked you to do. You're submitting to him in the areas that you're called to. That area is good. You've checked that. You once again, you know that there's something external going on, and you kind of suspect there's something physical going on, right? Another area I'd like you to look on before I give you the last part. I'd like you to consider um, your bedroom. Now, I will be the first to admit to you that I struggle in keeping my bedroom neat, tidy, and organized. I really do. I always have. If you called my mom today and talked to her, she would tell you that I have always had a messy bedroom. I did. I was a teenager. I would keep the entire rest of the house clean, and my bedroom would look like a hurricane ran through. I'm from New Orleans, and hurricanes are very rampant in New Orleans. And mine always looked like a hurricane came through and just tore the whole thing up, right? And I still struggle with that today. I have a very dear sister and very good friend in the Lord who I, just cry out to sometimes. It's like I'm trying to keep this clean, and she just encourages me, and I really do put forth good effort to do it. But it was really important for me to realize that my husband needs a place. He needs his area organized. He really is not a big deal. He's the opposite. The whole other part of the house can be falling apart. In the bedroom, he needs the bedroom to be that sanctuary, that place of refuge. It needs to look like it. It needs to look the part. He likes that. He That's important for him. So it has to be important for me, even though it's a weakness, and I still struggle, right? And we've been married almost 20 years now, and I'm still struggling to keep the bedroom clean. But it's important for him, and I've made it a priority, and I have to get on myself, like, get in there. Now, he won't complain about it. He's not the type to be like, this bedroom's a mess, get in there and clean. None of that. I want to do it to please him because I know that it's something that he needs, that's something that pleases him, something that's a blessing to him. And so I try very hard to be on top of that, right? And so for you, all my fellow sisters out there that struggle in an area like me, hey, I'm with you in that area. I'm just going to encourage you to try. That can be impactful for husbands in intimacy, right? They want the whole part, right? And some husbands, they don't care. They'll throw the toys on the floor off the bed and the clothes off the floor, and they're fine, right? It just, hey, as long as the bed is able to be occupied, I'm good. Some husbands are a little more sensitive to that than that, and they need the whole atmosphere to be a certain way. And if it's been like lingering and an ongoing issue for a very long time, it can start to affect his intimacy levels, right? Because he's just like, I can't function in this. I need this to be a certain way, and it won't. I don't want to really tell you, babe, because I don't want to pick an argument with you. I'm not trying to fight with you. You might be sensitive to him bringing up that topic. We can be very defensive about things, sometimes. And so I want you to consider that. And if you're courageous enough, maybe you'll even ask him, honey, is our bedroom bothering you? But if it's a mess, girl, assume it is. Get in there, and dedicate some time. It might take you a little while to do it. I understand. Having little ones, having bigger ones, and listen, we've had them all, right? We've had little, we've had infants, toddlers, elementary school age, high school, and college. At one time, all spread out, right? And in the house, right? And just constant. So it can be a lot going on. The dynamics of your household can be a lot. I understand that, right? But we have to get to the point where we're prioritizing the needs of our husbands, especially if something's gone awry. And it's affecting our marriages, right? It is affecting them in a way that is a negative way, right? And we're concerned about this. Whatever is pressuring him and causing him to be to have problems, either emotionally or physically or spiritually, affects us, right? And whatever affects you and him affects the marriage, and whatever affects the marriage affects the family, right? And so we want to do as much as we can within our power, within reason, right? You're not going to do it 100%. Like I said, I still struggle with it. I'm just being 100% honest with you. I still struggle with things, right? But my intent is to please him. My intent is to put things in motion that will bring him joy, because you know what? He is always trying to put things in motion to bless me. He's always trying to do little things. Does he make it 100%? No, some things, I prefer this or that. But I so appreciate the effort, right? And your husband will so appreciate the effort that you put forth in tidying things up. Maybe your bedroom is great, but the rest of the house is falling to pots, right? Take some time, solicit your children, get them on board. Those little people who know how to tear up stuff, they know how to clean up too, right? If they know how to take the blocks out of the bucket and throw them all over the floor, then by goodness, they know how to pick up those blocks and put them back in that bucket and put the bucket back in the closet or the bucket back on the shelf, right? And they know how to pick up their little shoes. They know how to do things in the household. That's my philosophy. If you can mess it up, you can clean it up, right? And so if you can't clean it up, you better not take it out. You better not mess it up, right? That's mommy's rule, right? But if mommy's going to allow you to, cut paper, cutting paper, my Lord. If I'm going to let you cut paper, you're going to always know how to vacuum, or at least get down there with those little fingers and pick up all that paper, right? If I let you glue stuff, and whatever the circumstances may be, right? But soliciting your children, getting them on board with keeping the house clean, because that's what daddy likes, right? And we want to be pleasing to our husbands. We want them to have a home that they can be proud of to come to. And so I want you to just consider those physical things. We may say, well, that's no big deal. If he wanted me, he just wanted me. Not all the time. Sometimes husbands are very, very complex. I know the world likes to portray them all, one size fits all. That's not the case, right? There are some husbands, they don't fit that mold, that stereotype we all put all husbands in, right? I have a husband, he's not into athletics. He's just not. He rallied behind our children when they played, right? And we have an 8-year-old who plays soccer, and he's right there. He's that kind of dad, but he's not, keeping up with this and he has a different focus. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the man who is into that. There's nothing wrong with the man who isn't. But we need to stop categorizing all husbands as being the same. They're not. Right? I know a variety of, brothers in the Lord who are husbands, and they are just as variant. There's so much variety in their personalities and their likes and dislikes, and it's wonderful. It makes the body of Christ so rich, right? I'm so glad there's not one type of man, or one type of woman, right? My sisters in the Lord, talk to them. They have all these varied interests and talents and gifts and abilities. I love it. It just shows how vast our Father is and how good He is, right? He didn't make us all the same, and that's a good thing, right? And so when we are dealing with this very tough situation, and when we are suffering, y'all, because this is a time of suffering, right? I'm talking to you about it because I've endured it. I've been through this period of time in my marriage. It's a time of suffering. You really feel like, what am I doing? What do I do to deserve this, Lord? But let's see what the Bible has to say about suffering, because it is not silent when it comes to suffering, and it might help you as you're going through this, and also remembering that our suffering is not unto the cross, y'all. Right, even this is sensitive, and I'm very sensitive to this topic, and it's a hard one to endure. I endured it, but it ain't the cross. It's not what Jesus endured, not when He paid for our sins, right? And so putting that suffering in perspective also helps, right? Because sometimes we can allow what we're going through to become so big, and then it's like, oh, woe is me. This is terrible, oh, downtrodden is my soul, and remembering, girl, okay, it's bad, this is tough. I'm not saying it isn't, but just remember who ultimately went through a horrific time, and that's our Savior Jesus and what he went through to purchase our salvation, okay? But let's read a little bit from First Peter chapter 3. And we're going to start at verse 8, and then I'm going to skip to 13. So we're going to do 8 through 9, and I'm going to skip to 13. It says, finally, all of you have unity of mind, sympathy, brotherly love, right? A tender heart, and a humble mind. Verse 9. Do not repay evil for evil, or reviling for reviling, but on the contrary, bless, for to this you are called, that you may obtain a blessing. Okay? That's why you're called. Why? Don't repay the bad for the bad, right? Bless, right? To this you are called. You are called to bless, that you may obtain a blessing. We're going to skip down to 13. Now, who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness' sake, right, you will be blessed. Let's just say you've done everything right. And this is not anything that you have, you're contributing to in that way, right? And even the thing, you've tidied up stuff and you've tightened up your role and you've tightened up your household, right? And this is still going on. Hey, you will be blessed if you suffer because you're suffering for righteousness' sake, right? Have no fear of them, nor be troubled, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, right? And so you're going through the situation. Maybe some sisters know you're going through it and they're looking at you like, girl, I cannot go through that. You be prepared to give a defense for the hope that's in you. Even if this never happens again, and God forbid, what I'm saying. But, Jesus is still on the throne, right? I still have hope in where I'm going. I still have hope in what he's working in me and out of me that's pleasing in his sight. Okay? Verse 16, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. Verse 17, for it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. So, we have to learn how to suffer well. We're not sufferers in the United States. We're not sufferers in this country, right? We have to suffer well. We have to learn how to endure well without whining, without complaining, without feeling like, woe is me and feeling sorry for ourselves and having pity parties, right? We need to suffer well. Why are we going through this? We're going through this to make us more into the image of Jesus. This is a part that he has planned for us to suffer through and to do it well to his glory, right? So do it well. Don't sit and cry about it and mope about it. And then now you got a bad attitude and you become fickle and moody with your husband, right? And that's not on his radar, that's a problem right now. That's, sometimes that's not how you don't put two and two together that way. They think a little differently, not wrong, just differently sometimes because, we have our suffering in front of us. We always have it in front of us and we have it, whatever I do, I'm doing it because of this, right? And, in essence, if you're focusing on what's not happening or happening, you have the tendency to make that thing an idol, right? Because what are you doing? You're giving all attention to the fact that I'm not getting what I want in this relationship, right? He's not doing what I want to do. Therefore, right, I have a right to act this way, right? And so our focus needs to be on Christ. Our focus needs to be on our role. As we're going along the way, Lord, how long is this? As long as it needs, right? Now, Things may be going on for the husband, your husband, physically, emotionally, spiritually. There may be things that's happening with him, yes. But your job is to bear through this well, right? Trusting in the Lord, right? Knowing that He is near, not far. Knowing that He is very much aware of what's going on, right? And knowing that you can surrender yourself to Him. So I would just encourage you, sisters, as you're out there enduring this, suffer well, right? Be the wife that you've been called to be, glorifying the Lord and pleasing your husband in spite of him not performing fully in his role, okay? Now, what do you do if Akeisha, I've done this and I've done that and I've done everything you said, and it's been months now and still nothing, and I don't know what to do now, I have no idea, right? Let me backtrack just a little bit. Sometimes when you make that bedroom a refuge and things are just, flowing and the kids are in bed and you have some quiet time, he then opens up about what's going on and he's able to share it with you, and he just pours out himself to you. And, you realize at that time that there is so much this man has been carrying around on his back. You can't see it and he's feeling it. No wonder this is not going on, right? And then he just pours out and you have that intimate time in terms of him opening up to you emotionally and talking to you finally about all the weight of the world that he's been carrying, right? And you've been praying about it, and you've been bathed in this whole situation in prayer, and then it happens, right? That's a very precious, precious moment between a husband and wife, right? And so you're just consoling him, and you're listening attentively, right, and actively paying attention to him, and you're just wanting him to know you're there, right? You're there as his help. You're helping him at that time. He's not necessarily asking you for what he should do. He just wants to unload, and you're his wife, and he wants to go ahead and open up and sacrifice this very quiet, maybe embarrassing situation to you, right? And you receive it, right? And this is a step in the next direction, and you might have, you may get a chance to input to him and say, well, honey, what can I do to help you? Is there anything I can do? And it may be nothing. It may be nothing. No, you can't do anything to help me. This is this is what I'm called to do as husband, and maybe his response. But, there's something that happens when that door, when that corner turns, right? And that door opens, right? But let's just say, that doesn't happen, or it does, and then, it's more weeks, months, and nothing's going on, right? And the fire's been put out at work, and now still nothing's happening. What do you do? The first thing I want you to do, because you're already praying about this situation, I want you to find a sister in the Lord, a mature, older sister in the Lord that you can confide in. If you haven't already, I want you to talk to her about what's going on. I want her and you to commit to pray for your husband in this situation in your marriage, right? Because now you need backup. You need a little help and encouragement. Something's going on, and now your marriage feels like it's in a point of crisis, right? And so you need someone to come alongside you and walk through this. Now make sure it's not a busybody, right? Make sure you're surrounding yourself with mature sisters in the Lord that can handle this, right? And I say an older sister who's been married a number of years, because chances are either she's endured something like this or she at least has insight on what you should do just by mere experience in her own time here on this earth, right? And so you want to just make sure that happens. And then if the time is passing, I want you to bounce off of her the idea of possibly going to one elder at your church, because prayerfully you're in a Bible believing, Bible teaching church with elders surrounding, or a pastor who's there, right? who can come and be a person that you can confide in with your sister. So you're going with your sister in the Lord and you're talking to your elder or pastor, and you might need to bring in some help. There's something going on and your husband needs something that you're not able to provide, and perhaps another godly, mature man, that's why I said elder or pastor, who's endured something like this, can talk to him. Or perhaps you're blessed to be in a church like ours, where there are lots of brothers who are mature in the Lord, where you can identify or help. Maybe your godly friend that you've confided in, her husband can be that man. And couple to couple, you guys can, get together, and the word of God can be enhanced and spoken out in a situation and utilized, right, to bring healing to that marriage and find out what next steps need to be put in place in order to heal that marriage in this difficult situation, right? And so these are all things that need to be handled very delicately, right? What I want you to make sure you never do, want you to make sure that you never use this as a weapon against your husband, that you never take in an argument or when you guys are not on the same page about things and things are going a little left in a marriage. Don't ever take this time period, and use it as a weapon against him. You don't ever want to do that. That is injurious to the husband and to the marriage itself, right? And so you always want to protect the marriage, right? As much as you can. You have a role to play in protecting that marriage to make sure certain things don't come in. And you need to protect it from the inside out. That means making sure that you don't turn something that's intimate and personal and private and very, very, very sensitive into something that can hurt. And you weld it in him, and you hurdle it and throw it toward him to cause injury to him and to cause injury ultimately to your marriage, right? A foolish woman tears down her house with her own hands, right? That's what it says in Proverbs. And so we want to make sure we don't do that. So anyway, that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed me sharing this topic with you. It's a very sensitive topic. It's not something that's spoken of a lot of times in our culture or even in the church circles, right? People are not talking about when husbands are having issues this way, but it is something that happens periodically in marriages across this nation, right? Christian marriages, right? And so it's just important for us to have the tools we need to be able to navigate these difficult situations, right? We need to know what to do and what to expect and how to approach them in a way that's glorifying to the Lord and very protective of our marriages, okay? All right, if you like this video, I need you guys to subscribe. I want you to comment, right? I want to hear from you. What do you want me to talk about next? Right? What do you want to hear wisdom about? Hey, I can talk about it, right? I'm mostly talking to Christian married wives, right? And Christian women as well. So whatever topic you want me to delve into, I would love to hear from you and see what you'd like me to explore with you through the word, through God's wisdom. Okay. So put it in the comments. I want you to subscribe. I want you to share this video, right? You might not be going through this right now, but you may have a girlfriend that is, sister in the Lord, that's enduring something very tough, and she's not going to tell you about it, right? So share it.